Hello again. We are live, and we are live from Toronto in Canada, just about to prepare for huge programs here at the Modern Mystery School UK EU, joining with Modern Mystery School International for a wonderful 10 days. And we are joined by Radu, who is going to share with us the results of the Galactic Activation. Well, from his perspective, anyway. How are you, Radu?
I'm good. How are you? Good
Very
morning or
well.
good evening, wherever you are in the world.
Yes, I know, isn't it? So, Radu, tell us, Galactic Activation, how was it for you? Is it weird? Is it normal? What were the results? Can you tell us? Can you give us some, feedback about how you experienced the class?
Yeah, for me, it was a long time ago. I took it first time way in 2019, but I came back and audited a couple more times afterwards. And yeah, it was an interesting class first time I took it because I didn't know what to expect. I think it was my second international modern mystery school class. I had to travel to Los Angeles to get it because it was not in my area. And I didn't know what to expect. I was just going there open-minded, and I was expecting a lot more of the, let's say, angelic or high magic that we got exposed to during, Healer's Academy, which was probably a month or so before that. When I got here, and it was like completely different kind of procedure and a lot more delicate and more it was weird in not weird, it was interesting from two perspectives because it was also down to earth, more physical than the high angelic magics that we were doing, but also it was more delicate. It was like you handle a flower and you need to be careful with it and like need to understand and treat it right, otherwise you can easily break it or disturb the energy, because we're talking about galactic beings who are here with us in the physical world, but there are such a different frequency from us that most of the time we just like pass by them, we don't even know we're there, but then they're super sensitive to the same kind of energies that we're using, like electric or electromagnetic or all these new type of energies that we're putting in our homes. And I was very interested in the beginning because they were talking about such easy to understand concepts, like what you eat is important, where you live is important, what you put in your house is important. But then at the same time, we were just ignoring them because we were just like, hey, we're humans and we do our own stuff.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because whilst, when I sometimes say to people, Galactic is probably the weirdest class that we have in the mystery. Well, from my perspective,
Mhm.
because it's strange, because we're not used to that
Mhm.
frequency is what I'm talking about. Yet you mentioned something very interesting. It really matters because it's the frequency at which we live and do our everyday lives, what we eat, our
Mhm.
environments, such like. So it's really interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It was like, I remember back then when I first took the class, it triggered me a little bit because I was not ready for this kind of beings, because I was coming from a background where I was say, oh, angels, everything is good, like the kind, like being an advanced being means you're always kind, you're always just taking care of things. And then I got to meet these galactic beings, and they were presented to me a very straightforward way. It's like, hey, you're not doing this right, you need to change, this is how you're supposed to do things. And it was, I perceived it very harsh back then. I was like, hey, how can this be elevated and advanced beings when they're being harsh to me? So I was like, I was super annoyed at them at the beginning, but then I realized they're right, and then it makes sense for them to be this way because we've been mistreating a lot of energies and things we've come into contact with just because we're ignorant. So even if I was going there with the best intentions, I could just be, muddying the waters because I had no idea there's waters.
That's such a good point, Maddie, that you were, you felt, oh, well, what, don't be so harsh, but actually it's for the best interest, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, let's get down to business. Let's actually tell you what's going to work. And then you can actually see the shift in your life. And so can you tell us what shifts that you've seen? What are the results that you've seen from the Galactic Activation that you can share with us?
Yeah, it's been very interesting. The results were immediate and very powerful in terms of emotional like dealing with subconscious emotions and things that were just happening in the background in my life, and I was just like ignoring them. And then this brought a lot more awareness to it, just because I was more aware of the things I was doing in the everyday life. So I started, putting in practice everything I learned in class, and then I noticed how I have these tendencies to just go back to my own old ways, or just judge things. I would just, okay, this sounds good, looks good, everything's perfect, this is how it's supposed to be. But then, a week later, I'd find some, oh, this is not so good. I want to do it this way and that way and change things. And I started noticing more and more in myself, just by analyzing what's going on, where I'm coming from. Because sometimes I would want to change things just because it's my ego. I want to make it more comfortable, more available, more easy, or make myself right. It's like, oh, I'm better than they are, so I'm gonna do things this way. And then I looked, even now, I like, after auditing the class recently, this spring, I'm looking at how things change and the people in my life that took the class. And I'm starting to see it easier and easier how we can improve our emotions, how we improve our attachments, how we can let go of things that previously were so normal to us. But now I can understand, okay, this is an attachment. I'm coming to this, I'm making these decisions again and again and again because I have this unresolved things inside of me that I maybe misunderstood as a child, or picked it up along the way in my communities or my interactions. And it's been very powerful just to observe the changes, because it's really like the small changes make a big difference when you do them right. So it's been quite a journey. Took me a while to understand it, but it's been amazing. Yeah.
Thank you, Radu. I think that really helps because you mentioned that the results were almost immediate, yet they carried on and they were so subtle and they've really integrated. And it, going back to what Davina Ann just said again, because it this rejuvenation, and it takes time, and that's what I felt as well. It's working all of the time. And for me, it's incredibly important that people consider the Galactic Activation, because it is a total upgrade of our whole being, and to achieve that divinity, royalty, greatness, whatever terminology we want to call it. This is just an amazing opportunity for everybody to do that, I think.
Yeah, since you brought that up, I'm gonna share another experience of mine. Because in the beginning, I was the same, very focused on the divinity aspect of it. So it's a great class or a great activation to upgrade your DNA and finish what King Solomon started such a long time ago, which is very important. But also it comes with the connection with the Galactic Federation, which I mostly ignored in the beginning, because they were like, okay, there's like these beings. You say, okay, you're gonna get a guide, you're gonna get this connection with beings from the outer space, and I kind of forgot about it for for a long time. I was like, oh, okay, they're there. It's like, great, I'm gonna go do my own stuff. But then as I worked with them over the years, they eventually I managed to reconnect with them and actually use them for some projects or innovations that I was trying to do in my background as an engineer in technology. And they were very helpful and in guiding me and directing me into ways of where could we take technology to, because we've been very focused on taking technology just for everyday use, as okay, better cars or better, I don't know, televisions, better games and all that. But then again, they told us how we can take very subtle things like a crystal, or working with crystals to affect the oceans or affect the biosphere, the plants, the greater parts of humanity, which would benefit us greatly, just as a global scale, not just in your life. Okay, I have a better whatever car. One thing, it's gonna help. They showed me how it's gonna help us on a very large scale, long term. And they gave us solutions of things to try out, like frequencies on plants that we never thought about it. I never thought about it. It was just like, oh, I want to do this thing, and I want, mechanical solutions. But they said, okay, take this plant and apply this frequency or light or toning to it, and it changes the plant, and it changes what the plant can do for you, and then you can have a plant analogy in our case do a lot more than we can do with machines. And it was a whole new approach on how we live life. Yeah.
I love that, Radu. Thank you so much. I know that's going to inspire a huge amount of people, that are working with technology and working in these fields. So thank you for sharing that. And we have a question which I'll just answer here. Is there a minimum age requirement for the Galactic Activation? As long as the children can participate in the exercises, then that is absolutely fine. Children are really love this. I've had my dogs Galactic activated, by the way. But whoever, I can't see who the Facebook user is here, but if you want to message me, Kate at modernmysteryschooluk.com, I'll pop you in touch with the teacher, and we can discuss. As long as there's a parent there and the parents going through the process as well, that's very important. But yes, case by case, and children have come in the past. So thank you for asking the question. Thank you, Radu. And I shall see you in person very soon. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.